Good afternoon, welcome to VANIK-IAS. We will discuss current affair of 8 July. And first is Purchasing Manager Index. India's service firms saw growth in new business and output accelerate to 11-year high. First, we will discuss objective questions. Consider the following statements with reference to Central Consumer Protection Authority. CCPA has taken suo motu cognizance against e-commerce entities. Yes, it has taken suo motu cognizance against e-commerce entities. The authority is being constituted under Consumer Protection Act 2019. Consumer Protection Act 2019. Yes, both the statements are correct. Here both the statements are correct. It has taken suo motu cognizance and also it is created in according to based on Consumer Protection Act 2019. Next. Purchasing Manager Index PMI is compiled by which of the following organization? This is IHS Market. IHS Market, it has compiled Purchasing Manager Index. Right, IHS Market. What is this Purchasing Manager Index? That is calculating the total amount of services and goods of a particular company, right? In business, how much production of goods happened and services, how they are growing. That is compiled by IHS Market. B is the answer. Central Pollution Control Board, Central CPCB was yes, it is established under which of the following act? This is Water Prevention and Control of Pollution. Water Prevention and Control of Pollution is a statutory body. Central Pollution Control Board, it is a statutory body created under Water Prevention and Control Pollution Act 1974. Okay. Critical minerals can be used. Which of the following? Critical minerals. Whenever you see question regarding application or causes, usually all of the there are the answer, right? So here answer is correct as also. So which of the following minerals, critical minerals can be used? Can be used, right? Whenever you see can, then probability is all of them are right. It is mobile phones, computer, batteries, electronic vehicles, solar panels, wind turbines. In all these things, critical minerals can be used. So all of the above are the answer. Which of the following are the examples of critical minerals? Beryllium, germanium, rhenium, tantalum. All of them are critical minerals. Beryllium, germanium, rhenium, tantalum. They are examples of critical minerals. So we'll discuss now. Purchasing Manager Index. So what is Purchasing Manager Index? India's service firms saw a growth in new business and output accelerated to 11-year high in June as per survey-based S&P Global Services Purchasing Manager Index. So our service sector has been accelerated to 11-year high. India is a service hub. We know that China is a manufacturing hub. That means majorly the economy is based on manufacturing products. India is a service hub. It has a huge amount of population, more English speaking population. and they are working throughout the world, and India is receiving maximum amount of remittances as compared to any other country, right? So, as service sector contributes more than 55% of the GDP, and it has seen a significant growth in, and that is 11-year high in June. The Purchasing Manager Index is a measure of the prevailing direction of economic trends in manufacturing, right, and also in services, right. It is a measure of prevailing direction of economic trend, right, direction of economic trend in manufacturing and services. It has started in 1948 by US-based Institute Supply Management. It is an indicator of business activity. It is an indicator of business activity, how much business is happening, both in the manufacturing and the services sector, right? Both in case of manufacturing, remember, purchasing manager index, it calculated both in case of manufacturing and the service sector, right? It is not limited to only manufacturing. It it is a shows the economic trend of the economic, it shows the economic trend or direction of economic trends in manufacturing and services. Now, PMI is based on monthly survey of supply chain managers across 19 industries, covering both upstream and downstream activity. Supply chain managers across 19 industries. It is based on monthly survey of supply chain managers 19, both upstream and downstream. Upstream means after production. After production, how the supply chain, and before production, the supply chain, right? That is production of supply of raw materials or those goods that are used for value addition. It is calculated separately for manufacturing and services, and then a composite index is constructed. It is calculated separately for manufacturing and services, and then a composite index is constructed, that is purchasing manager index. Next, PMI is derived a series from a series of qualitative questions. The value and movements in the PMI and the components can provide useful insight to business decision makers, market analysts, and investors. Right? Business investors, decision makers. That means in which sector you need to invest so that you will get maximum profit. So these things give proper analysis to the investors and decision makers. A figure above 50 denotes expansion in business activity. Expansion in business activity above 50. Anything below 50 denotes contraction, right? So in those sectors where there is more than 50, then that is expansion. That means economy is growing in those sectors. And if anybody invest in those sectors, you will definitely will get profit. Anything below 50 denotes contraction. That means economy is contracting in those areas. It is not beneficial. So if anybody is investing huge amount of money, then there is possibility of less profit or loss. If the figure is higher than previous months, then the economy is expanding at a faster rate. Right? It shows that if the figure is higher than the previous one, that means it is in growing. Right? It is lower than the previous one, then it is at lower rate. Growth is low growth. Although there is growth, then there is low growth. Right? Low growth means if this one sum is it is growing at 7%, next one is there will be 6%. So growth, it is not lost, it's growth but low growth. Then PMI is usually released at the start of the month. Right? At the start of the month, it is released at the start of the month. That is purchasing manager index. It is both for manufacturing and service sector. It shows the trend of growth of economy, direction of economy, and if it is above 50, it denotes expansion. If it is below 50, it denotes contraction in the economy. And elements at center of India. Next is in India, Australia, Delhi. Right, India, Australia, Delhi. Why India and Australia and US and Australia all are engaging in at a getter with a getter proactively, right? They are engaging proactively. The reason is that now the center of the global politics is Indo-Pacific, right? Russia, both China has also signed its treaty with various Solomon Islands, and USA want to also increase their clout in those island nations. And in this Indo-Pacific, the role of Australia is very significant because it is its strategical presence in the Indo-Pacific makes it important. And so far as India is concerned, also India has to develop good relationship with Russia. India and Australia decided to strengthen their partnership in the field of projects and in supply chains for critical minerals. So India is engaging with China and with Australia and to counter the aggressiveness of China. So India and Australia they have decided to strengthen their partnership in the supply of critical minerals. Then what are the critical minerals? We have seen in the objective questions. There is a question regarding critical minerals. Critical minerals are elements that are building blocks of essential modern day technologies, right? Essential modern day technologies that use especially the electronics technologies. We are now using various electronics gadgets like your mobile phone or laptop or your phone or very many other things, right? Especially smartwatch, semiconductor, and various applications of semiconductor like calculator. All these things we are been using right now. So modern technologies are at risk of supply chain disruptions. These minerals are now used anywhere from making mobile phones, computer to batteries, electronic vehicles, green technologies like solar panel. So these are the applications of critical minerals, that is making mobile phones, batteries, computers, electronic vehicles, green technology like solar panels, wind turbines as well. Right. Based on their individual needs and strategic consideration, different countries create their own lists, right? Where it can be applied, right? So different countries are applying them in different dimensions because they have wide range of applications. Such a list is mostly include graphite, lithium, cobalt, right, critical minerals which are used for making electronic vehicle, uh, which is electronic vehicle batteries, right? EV batteries, electric vehicle batteries. Rare earths, so rare earth those used making magnets, and silicon, which is the key mineral making computer chips and solar panels. So lists are graphite, lithium, cobalt, which are making electric vehicle batteries, and making rare earth material that is used in making magnets. Silicon is the key mineral for making computer chips and solar panels. Aerospace, communication, and defense industries also rely on several such minerals as they are used in manufacturing fighter jets, drones, radio sets, and other critical equipment. They are used in manufacturing fighter jets, drones, and radio and other critical equipment. They are the uses of these critical minerals. So, in various sectors like drones, radio sets, and communications, aerospace, computer making computer chips, electronic batteries, uh, critical minerals are used. Why this resource critical? As countries around the world scales of their transition towards clean energy and digital economy, these critical resources are the keys to the ecosystem that fuels this change. Any supply shock can severely impact the economy and strategic autonomy of a country over dependent on others and procure critical minerals. Right? Now world is shifting towards green energy or clean energy. Right? We have to go for non-conventional sources of energy because we have been over dependent on the fossil fuel, and the Middle East is Middle East is a unstabilized region, and anytime there may be supply chain disruption, right? There has been frequent war, there has been no stable government, there is no democracy in Middle East. So in such a situation, we have to develop our own sources of energy, and also because of the problem of climate change and various natural hazards that are we are suffering from climate change based on changing on rain pattern or various natural disasters. In such case, we have to take solid steps against climate change as we promised in Glasgow summit, right? And we have promised to increase our renewable energy by 500 gigawatt by 2030 and to achieve net zero carbon emission by 2070, as we have committed in the Glasgow summit, that is our national determined commitment or NDC. So to fulfill all these goals of green energy or non-conventional sources of energy, we have to we have to we have to go for various generation of electric vehicle, for example electric vehicle or energy efficiency batteries, battery technologies, electric technologies. We have to shift from the conventional fossil fuel based on energy sources than to electric energy, right? And also we have to develop our solar energy. For that we need silicon chips, and also in case of wind energy also the turbines are made from the critical minerals. So as these the manufacturing components, the raw materials used for these non-conventional energy sources are based on the critical minerals. So any country who is having those critical minerals is now we have to develop our relationship. And also another thing that we should not be over dependent on others to procure critical minerals. Otherwise, we cannot maintain our strategic autonomy. Like we are not completely maintaining our strategy autonomy with respect to Gulf countries, because our decisions are shaped by our dependent on those countries, because we are highly dependent on the Gulf countries so for our oil procurement is concerned. But this supply risk exists due to rare availability, growing demand, and complex processing value chain. Many times the complex supply chain can be disrupted by hostile regimes or due to political unstable regimes. Anything can happen at any time, though there is no global governance in world politics. So that means any type of instability may happen, and there are some hostile regimes who are taking strong steps. For example, there is conflict in Syria, but there is conflict in Saudi Arabia, right? There are so many terrorist groups that exist in those countries. There is a conflict between Iran and Saudi Arabia, and there is that's why we have these regions are a politically unstable region, and we have to diversify our resources. As US government said recently noted that as the world transitions to a clean energy economy, the global demand for these critical minerals is also set to skyrocket by 400 to 600% over the next skyrocket 4 to 600% over the next several decades. And for minerals such as lithium and graphite used in electric vehicle batteries, demand will increase by even more than 4,000% is possibility. So demand for graphite or lithium, now that has become new oil, we can say graphite and lithium they can become new oil, because after a decade the demand will much more, because many governments are targeting that by 2030 in market there will be electric vehicles, right? And the number is increasing, but because the technology is increasing, now the target is that making a developed technology, developed electric vehicle technology, and which must be cost effective and efficient like the earlier conventional fossil fuel vehicles. So a transition is going to happen. It is already started, and they have ambitious target of the next by the next decade we will see ample amount of electric vehicles in the market using. So that has the possibility to increase the price of graphite by 4,000%. They are critical as world is fast moving from fossil fuel intensive to mineral intensive energy system. Right? It is shifting from fossil fuel intensive to mineral intensive energy system. Right. Next. What is China threat? China is world's largest producer of 16 critical minerals. China on the role of critical minerals by International Energy Agency. The role of critical minerals by International Energy Agency is responsible for the sum of around 70 to 60% of global production of cobalt and rare earth materials. So 70 to 60% of global production of cobalt and rare earth material lies with China, respectively in 2019. The level of concentration is even higher in the processing operations, where China has strong presence across the board. China's share of refining is around 30%, 35% for nickel and 57% for lithium and cobalt, nearly 90% for the rare earth materials. So both in case of refining of the natural resources and also in the storage of natural resources, China has upper hand than any other country. It is already the second largest economy of the world. It is an aggressive country, and it is not a democracy. It is an authoritarian design. China is aggressively increasing its clout in the throughout the world, especially in case of Asia by one belt one road policy, and also by it is aggressively increasing in the Indo-Pacific region by signing treaty with various countries and by its debt trap policy, like it has done China, Sri Lanka, and other countries of or Asian countries, even those enemy countries, which are so-called enemy countries of China, they dispute those so countries, the countries which have disputes with China with respect to their the South China Sea islands, they are also taking huge debt from China, right? So China is becoming the global power or the next hegemon in the world politics, we can say, and it will be because another stronghold, another advantage for China is that it has the world's 16th largest producer of 16 critical minerals, and also it has a high refining capacity. It is also controls cobalt mines in the Democratic Republic of Congo. In Africa also it has strong presence from where 70% of minerals is sourced. So in the same, it has controlled the cobalt mines of Congo in Africa. China is exploiting the natural resources. There is that's why there is huge discontent in Africa as well. But there is huge Chinese presence in Africa where they are exploiting the natural resources. In 2000, China suspended rare earth exports to Japan for 2 months over a territorial dispute. The decision made the market prices of rare earth materials jump anywhere between 60% to 350%. The prices returned to normal only after a year, China resuming the shipments. So, like the once upon a time we have witnessed oil crisis in the 1960s, right? Why the oil crisis happened? Because after the Yom Kippur War, there is dispute with Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia stopped the oil supply, and the whole world suffered around 5 to 6 months the scarcity of oil, right? That is called as oil crisis, and it has various repercussions on the world economy. For many, its economic impacts survived for many decades, right? So similarly, like the world, Saudi Arabia has shown its power to the world that I have oil and you cannot survive like without us. Similarly, now China is going to do that, and because China has a huge resources and we can call it the next Saudi Arabia who will control the energy of whole world, and it has also done once like increasing the rare earth materials price from 60% to 350%. What are the countries around the world doing about it? In 2021, the US ordered a review of vulnerabilities in its critical minerals supply chains and found that over-reliance on foreign sources and adversarial nations for critical minerals and materials posed national and economic security threats. Post the supply chain assessment, it has shifted its focus on expanding domestic mining, production, processing, recycling of critical minerals and materials. US review, yes, in 2021, US ordered a review of vulnerabilities in its critical mineral supply chains and found that over-reliance on foreign sources, right? Over-reliance on foreign sources and are adversarial nations for critical minerals, that is especially with China, and pose national economic security threats. That means whenever it becomes dependent on a particular country, you cannot exercise your sovereignty or you cannot exercise your strategic autonomy. Right? They will influence your decision. You cannot take any strong action against those countries, or those in you cannot take any strong action against their wish. Right? For example, many times we are cooperating with USA because USA we are dependent on USA and we are cooperating on many fronts. For example, USA didn't wanted India to during the Trump resign, USA didn't wanted India to have any relationship with Iran, and we stopped our supply of 15%. We are importing 15% of our oil from Iran. Although we face the crisis, still we have to stop it because we cannot maintain our strategic autonomy because we are overly dependent on USA on many fronts, and that's why we cannot offset USA. We cannot maintain strategic autonomy. Although we say that we maintain strategic autonomy, but we cannot in practically, or we cannot 100% maintain our strategic autonomy. Another thing is that uh, another thing is that no country in this world maintains strategic autonomy. That is also one more thing. And we are not completely sovereign. In a globalized world, it is just impossible to become 100% sovereign, because components are very complexly interdependent on each other. So you cannot exercise your sovereignty. There are many global institutions. For example, in United Nations, we need the support of USA, right? We need the support of USA in United Nations, in other international bodies. So we cannot upset USA, as there is no democracy in the global institutions, and also the world is highly complexly interrelated with each other. That's why we cannot exercise the strategic economy properly. India has set of Kabil for the Khanis Vides India Limited, set up Kabil or Khanis Vides India Limited, a joint venture of three public sector companies. A joint venture of three public sector companies to ensure consistent supply of critical and strategic minerals to Indian domestic market. Right? Kabil or Khanis Vides India Limited for supply of critical and strategic materials. Announcing the formation of Kabil 2029, while Kabil will ensure mineral security of the nation, it will also help realizing the overall objective of import substitution. The overall objective of import substitution, we are now having target of making in India, make in India, and also Atmanirbhar Bharat. At Atmanirbhar Bharat, in every dimension we are trying make in India. Also, we are being successful with it. Now, India is just exporter of mobile phones. Few years ago, it was importer of mobile phones, right? So everything's not need to be produced within India, and if we want to make them produce inside India, then we have to also supply the raw materials. And if we are not able to supply the raw materials, then the price of goods will increase. So to strengthen our policy, or to implement our policy of Make in India or Atmanirbhar Bharat, we have to supply the raw materials, and for that we have established Kavil or Khaniz Vides India Limited. Australia's Critical Mineral Facilitation Office (CMFO) and Kavil had recently signed MOU aimed at ensuring reliable supply of critical minerals to India. Australia's Critical Minerals Facilitation Office, that is CMFO, and Kavil had recently signed MOU ensuring reliable supply of critical minerals to India. The UK unveiled its new Critical Minerals Intelligence Center to study the future demand for and supply materials. UK's critical mineral strategy will be unveiled this year. Um, United Kingdom. The in 2000, June 2021, the US, Canada, Australia has launched inactive interactive map of critical mineral deposits with an aim to help governments to identify options to diversify their critical mineral resources. Right? So US, Canada, and Australia had launched interactive map of critical minerals, and objective is to help governments to identify options to diversify their critical mineral resources. It is important to diversify every resources. Why it is important? Because anytime you can have a dispute with any country, right? Anytime USA can be upset, anytime the Middle East can be upset, anytime because of any political issues, because the world is now highly integrated and highly complex. We have engagement in various dimensions. So anytime disputed can be happen, and also there is uncertainty throughout our world at present time, economic uncertainty, and also uncertainty. For example, in COVID, because of COVID-19, it's uncertainty, it's a huge uncertainty that happened in the history of humankind. And also there is in the Middle East is war. Also to maintain strategic autonomy, also we have to diversify our resources, right? We have to diversify our resources. If you are purchasing oil, 100, if you are purchasing 100 barrel of oil, then that's you should purchase them from 4 to 5 countries, right? So that what happen, your engagement with different countries will give you multiple benefits. That will your diaspora will engage in those countries, relations will strengthen, trade will increase with those countries, and your dependency over a particular country will not happen, right? For example, hard India had strong relations with Iran, and for example, if India will purchase 100% oil from Iran, what will happen? Anytime US wants, we have to stop it. Then prices of our oil or those natural goods which are importing from those countries will increase automatically, which we cannot afford, right? So which we cannot afford. That's why we have to diversify our critical mineral resources as well You have to import from China, you have to import from Russia, you have to import from UK. So from various countries, wherever possible, we have to import our natural resources. So I need so that to sort many extent will maintain our strategic autonomy or will exercise our strategic autonomy by not depending on a particular country for anything. Okay. Next, Environmental Protection Act 1986. That is amendment. That is amendment proposed to Environmental Protection Act 1986. Why? Because we uh, in very dimensions, right? See, the Act establishes the framework for studying, planning, implementing long-term requirements for environmental safety, and laying down a system for speedy and adequate response to the situation threatening the environment. Right. So, central government providing protection to the environment. So, this encourages the central government to take any steps regarding protection of the environment, that is both for the air, for the water, and the natural habitats, whatever the present surface or the aquatic environment. Central government can solid steps or for long-term interest of the environment. It can take, right? Constitutional provision. The Environment Protection Act has enacted under Article 253 of the Indian Constitution. Remember, Article 253 Indian Constitution, which provides for the enactment of legislation for giving effect for international agreements. Enactment legislation giving effect to international agreements. Article 48A of the Constitution specifies states shall endeavor to protect and improve environment to safeguard forest and wildlife of the country. Article 51A further provides every citizen shall protect the environment. Every citizen shall protect the environment. This is Article 51A. Or Article 48A, this is the DPSP. It says that to protect the environment it should be the aim of the state under Article 37 to implement the DPSP. On DPSP 48, Article 48A, we have the states shall endeavor to protect the improve the environment and to safeguard the forest and wildlife of the country. Right? It will improve the biodiversity. Also, Article 253, it says that enactment of legislation giving effect to international agreements. That point we have signed the Paris Climate Deal, so we have to enact the agreements to sign to implement this Paris Climate Deal. That is nationally determined commitment. So if you are signing an agreement, that we have to bring some legislation to give the effect to implement those agreement under Article 253. It authorizes central government. Yes, I have said it under Protection Act 1956. It authorizes the central government to protect, improve environmental quality control and reduce pollution from all sources and prohibit, restrict setting and operation of any industrial facility on environmental grounds. It can restrict, central government can restrict any industry on the any industrial facility on environmental ground. To establish authorities charged with mandate for of preventing environmental pollution in all its forms, to establish authorities charged with the mandate of preventing environmental pollution in all forms and to tackle specific environmental problems and peculiar parts of the country. So it also authorizes the government to establish authorities to control the environment and take steps against those who are violating or safeguarding, violating the environmental norms or polluting the environment. Next, what is water stress? Water stress and how and why does it differently regionally differ regionally India, right? Water stress situation which water resources in a region of the country are insufficient for its needs. Insufficient. In a particular area, the water resources available are insufficient for their needs, then we can call it is a situation of water stress. Then we can call it a situation of water stress. Such situation arises when the demand for water exceeds the available amount of when the poor quality restrict or when the poor quality restricts is used. Right? Two things. First thing is there is less available or there is poor quality of water is available for the use. Why it is happening? Because our lifestyle has been changing, right? The materialism or is increasing. We are using more and more goods and products. And when you use more and more goods and products, there is, for example, an improvement in sanitation. Suppose you are using a car, then you are using a bike, you are using very few amount of water to wash it. Now, if you are using car, then you are obviously you are using more water to wash it. Or earlier there was you are taking the water in bucket from itself from a pond to wash your cycle, but now you have a motor, you have electric motor and water motor to supply continuous flow of water. Then you are using washing your car. Or the sanitation system has also developed. Earlier you are washing, people are washing in ponds or rivers. Now that has changed to individual household use of source as sanitation has increased, so water uses are also increased. And because of urbanization especially, the water uses has been more in some concentrated area, right? Because in a particular concentrated area, when you see that there's water stress in a particular concentrated area where the population concentration is very high. For example, in case of Odisha, in one in the village at an average there is 250 people or hardly 250 or 300 people are living in a 1 square kilometer area. But in case of Kolkata, it is around 22,000 people are living in 1 square kilometer area. So just compare with 300 to 22,000 people living in 1 square kilometer area, which is that means we have very high density population that are living in those areas. So especially in the urban areas, the population density is highly increasing. Is and as population density is increasing, the water extraction from the groundwater uses is also increasing. And because of urbanization and also industrialization is increasing. For industries, huge amount of water is needed. So whenever an industry is established, it is extracting a huge amount of water from the ground sources that create a water scarcity in those areas. And practically, if you see, India has 70% of world populations, but it has 4% of freshwater resources, right? 70% of world population, not only 4% of freshwater resources. So obviously there is a water scarcity that is going to happen. According to the Composite Water Management Index 3 for 2020, 21 major cities including Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, reaching to zero groundwater levels by 2020, affording access of 100 million people. Besides, 12% of India's population is already living the day zero scenario, right? 12% of population is living, I mean, already facing the water crisis, and also it is going to, and around 21 major cities are going to face the severe water crisis in near future. According to the Adequate Water Risk Atlas, the World Resource Institute, India is ranked 13 among the seventh water states country of the world. India is 13th among the 17 most water states countries of the world. So water scarcity is increasing. This indicates that India is going through water emergency. However, there is a regional variation. Not all regions are equally water stressed, right? Some areas are highly water stressed, some areas not water stressed. For example, in case of Odisha, especially the cities areas, in the village areas, there is ample amount of water. They are not facing the water scarcity. But the northwestern and central parts of the country are severely water stressed. Northwestern, especially the Rajasthan and central parts, for example, here Madhya Pradesh or Rayalaseema region of Telangana, Vidarbha region of Maharashtra, they are facing highly water stressed. Eastern parts receive abundant rainfall for groundwater resources. Eastern part, right? For example, Odisha, West Bengal, or the northeastern part, it receives heavy rainfall because of the monsoon rain. Variation is also interregional level. For example, the areas of North Bihar struggle due to flooding, where the South Bihar find it difficult to beat the heat. Flooding in Mumbai has become a regular phenomenon where nearby Vidarbha faces the drought. So in some areas the flooding has been increasing, the floods are increasing, and we are also facing the floods, we are also facing the droughts. So in such a situation, we can say it has this phenomenon has increased because of climate change, unseasonal rainfall, and also there is erratic rainfall and or heavy rainfall. That's a frequent uh, cloud burst or similar phenomena. And the rainfall pattern has changed by 12% because of climate change, as mentioned in the Economic Survey 2017. So That is the problem. In some region, we are seeing excessive rainfall or flood. In some region, we are witnessing drought. Right. This uneven distribution of water crisis can be attributed to the following reasons. What may be the reasons of this water crisis? India has a diverse geography due to different regions have varying degrees of rainfall. Degrees of rainfall. Some areas are some rain shadow areas. Some areas are um, windward side or leeward side. So in some areas there is heavy rainfall. Some areas there is snow rainfall. For example, winter monsoon along the eastern coast and summer monsoon in the northern India. Right. Interior southern India lies in the rain shadow regions. Interior of southern India lies in the rain shadow zone. Now, most of Rajasthan and northern Gujarat have the arid climate, right? Because there is no monsoon. Also, in arid and semi-arid areas of northwestern India, central India is naturally occurring water stress. Central India, naturally occurring water stress areas because there is high population, high population, right? High rate of population density, and also when the monsoon reaches there, there is no moisture in the monsoon. That also creates less rainfall in areas like Delhi, Haryana, and Punjab. Climatic factors. The changing climate has led to increasing frequency of intensity of floods as well as droughts, erratic monsoon causing delayed and infrequent rainfall in different parts of India. Erratic monsoon. Erratic monsoon causing delayed and infrequent rainfall in different parts of India. Right. So there is erratic monsoon, that means unseasonal rain. That creates flood or drought. The time where the rainfall is required, that at that time we're not getting it. The time when it is not required, many times you get it, especially in case of your winter rainfall that creates heavy damage to the crops like paddy, right? Then agriculture practices. Yes, agriculture is also increasing now. Present time, the population is increasing. Our food habits are is also increasing to ensure food security. Our food habits are also increasing. So there is commercial agriculture. Many times we are doing agriculture on the basis of exports for export purposes. So in such a situation, there is after the development of green revolution, there is intensive agriculture practices is practiced in some states like Punjab, Western Uttar Pradesh, and Haryana, and other states. So, as agricultural practices increasing, there is also water uses are increasing. Some states are also to attract the farmers giving free electricity that makes them to use frequently, that makes them to use sufficient water and irrigation frequently. That also lead to misuse of water. So these huge irrigation facilities, they are also creating water scarcity. In India, agriculture is not practiced according to the agroclimate zone. Agroclimate zone is not, it is in judiciously, right? What happens is agroclimate zone, there is agricultural mismatch. Those areas, suppose in a particular area, a particular crop need to be cultivated because what due to lack of knowledge, they are cultivating some another things, right? There is agricultural mismatch. The crops are not I mean cultivated as per the suitable environment. That's why many times there is requirement of mismatch of uses of water. That is one point. And groundwater is used to cultivate water intensive crops like paddy and sugarcane in rain deficit states like Punjab and Maharashtra respectively. So so those areas where there is heavy rainfall, there should be those that should become cultivated. For example, in case of Odisha or West Odisha or West Bengal or Andhra Pradesh, or there is heavy rainfall in those areas, there should be cultivation of water intensive crops like paddy and sugarcane. Right? Why in Punjab and Maharashtra? There should be those crops which requires less water. State procurement policy and subsidized electricity of Punjab makes it profitable for the farmers to produce rice. Right? Two factors: state procurement policy and electricity also, free electricity, subsidized electricity that creates profitable for the farmers to produce rice. Similarly, farmers in Maharashtra cultivate sugarcane because they are assured of marketing, right? Because they are assured of marketing, that's why they are producing sugarcane. Although there is scarcity of water in sugarcane is a highly water intensive crop. Moreover, food irrigation is the most common form of irrigation in India, which leads to a lot of water loss. Flood irrigation, that means over irrigation, is a common form of irrigation. We don't We are not water using judiciously. That's why Pradhan Mantri has the PM Krisi Sinchai Yojana is especially for effective irrigation, because we many times we see flood irrigation or over irrigation, that which is not required. All these have led to excessive groundwater extraction and made India virtual exporter of water. Made India a virtual exporter of water. That means whenever we export rice or whenever we export agricultural products, we are also exporting water. Human factors, rapid urbanization, I have said, or rapid urbanization, industrialization. Concentration of population around major cities usually happen to local rainfall deficient regions like Delhi NCR. There is scarcity of water in Delhi NCR. The situation is aggravated by encroachment, contamination, and consequent destruction of water bodies, which otherwise help recharge the groundwater aquifers. Above all, there is lack of awareness about water economy, which demands judicious use of water. Right? Judicious use of water. There is lack of there is lack of awareness among the people regarding uses of water and the possibility of water crisis. Right? People are not aware about the possibility of water crisis. That's why they are also misusing water resources. Then way forward, India's water challenge stems not only from the limited availability of water resources but also mismanagement. Yes, mismanagement is also there. There is a need to follow conservation agriculture, that is farming practices adapted to the requirement of crops and local conditions. Cultivation of less water intensive crops like pulses, millets, oilseeds could be encouraged. Water stress region, right? Those are water stress region. There should be pulses, millets, and oilseeds. Government must facilitate them. Rainwater harvesting needs to be incorporated in urban development projects. Mission Kakatiya, Telangana, which seeks to restore tanks. So community-based irrigation management is also commendable. So there should be rainwater harvesting. Right. So by this, the lecture ends here. Thank you. Like this video, encourage us to continue this program. Thank you all.